Welcome to Intuition to Income, everybody. This is Abby Gooch, and I am here today with Denise Dominguez. I have such a hard time saying her name, but I was just telling her before we started the show that she just has this brilliant heart, and I just felt her love and her compassion and wanted to have her a part of the show. So, Denise, if you could introduce yourself a little bit more in depth, more than just what my intuition knows is that you are this amazing heart, but what you're doing for the world and how you got connected with your intuition.
Well, thank you, Abby. Thank you so much. So I am here because I survived a 22-year abusive relationship that I didn't even know was abusive. So it was through coming through that and surviving that and leaving that and finding myself and who I am, and then getting into the personal growth and personal development, the coaching world that really catapulted me into who I am today. Super, super grateful for, my tribe around me, Abby, you, and our business coach who we met through, and all of the coaches that I am surrounded by, because I was actually just thinking of this today. How blessed I am to be surrounded by so much love, so much patience, so much support, when there was a time in my life when I was surrounded by total opposite and total chaos, total drama, trauma, just one episode after another. And then it wasn't until I left that toxic environment and chose me as a priority that things started to, doors started to open up, and I started to meet beautiful people like you, Abby, and everybody else that is just like, has shown me that there is more love in the world than there is chaos. Wow. There really is. Yeah.
Wow. So the reason I'm in transition is I'm actually moving back to San Diego, which is where I'm from. So I just got back from Arizona yesterday. And on our way home, there was this town called Surprise. And so as you were talking, I'm feeling so connected to you, and that your intuition knew I needed to connect with Abby. My intuition knew to have you on the show. I had no idea. Right. And I recently am actually having to leave my current family in a certain area because I've been in a situation and my intuition just prompts me, go, move forward, move forward. And right. That is, I know, where you were guided as well. Because yes. Intuition is that inner knowing. It's that gut feeling. To me, it's like the whisper of your soul. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can actually be a very loud whisper. Right. I know times like I was invited to be on TV with a producer of Oprah, and I remember when it was time, and it was like, you got to listen. And so it comes in different ways. But what I love about your share, Denise, is that you listened and found a new life. And I so relate to you because I went to Arizona because a colleague actually invited me to work with him. And to me, he's like a master teacher. But it was love outside the drama and the trauma. Like, right? I love that you said that. So, this show is specifically, intuition to income. So your intuition led you to lead that. And I would love to know how it let you create more income in your life, because as you choose you and love, I'd really say love, the pureness of love, you'll be in alignment with your intuition. So how did that grow your company?
So, well, first I have to talk about the first time that I followed. So I like to also view it as this way, Abby, light and heavy energies. Right? So following our intuition is following the energy, following the light energy, and trusting and knowing that that is where we're supposed to go without even questioning. So there's a lot of times that the intuition or the light energy is telling us to do something or go somewhere, and we're like, huh? What? Just go with it. Just go with it and see where it leads you to, because I promise it's leading to something fabulous. Yeah. So the first time that I got like an abundance of money was when I was leaving my relationship in Florida, and I was following the energy like, it's time, right? 22 years of one way, and it's time. So I had a specific amount in my head that I needed, because I was leaving Florida and moving to North Carolina. Like, I was out of Dodge, out of the state, completely out. And of course that takes money. So that was the first time that I created like nice chunk of money. I needed a certain amount for me to leave, and that was just following it and just going and putting it in my head that this was the amount I want, that I need, and I created that. And that's not including going on vacation for the first time in Colorado for 10 days and having a blast.
You're like, I'm going to leave with a bang. That's awesome.
That's not including like all the things that I did leading up to the final moving day. So that was the first thing that I felt like I should share with the audience. And then growing my company was pretty much the same thing, like just going with the flow. And you know, Abby, starting a business, there's going to be some high and low times. There's going to be some frustration times where you're like, you know, like you can't get through to a client, or you can't get a client, or you lose a client that like was bringing in a lot. And it's about just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. That's one of the things that, you know, our coach had said is just do it. Just keep going and keep going no matter what. Just keep going, because that's truly one of the key points, is to just, no matter what happens, is just keep going. So, I mean, that would be my biggest advice to anybody, to create anything that they want in their life, and growing a company especially. Just, if this is what you want and you need and you love, and it's like pouring out of you, then just keep going. Because everything, it's like when we plant a seed to grow a flower or a plant, it's not going to come overnight. It's not going to blossom overnight. It's going to take time. And in the meantime of it growing and actually sprouting out of the ground, what are we doing? We're watering it, we're watching it, we're giving it the right amount of sunlight. We're doing all of the things to nurture it for it to grow into this beautiful flower. So same thing with a company. Same thing with a relationship. Same thing with everything. You have to go through the process and the steps to get to the big.
Yeah. What comes to mind is trust, right? So it's like,
yes.
You said when you feel your intuitive nudge, so that gut feeling, that lightness. I'll just use the example of going to Arizona, right? So, I mean, originally my house was in Oregon, so I had to drive through 2 states. I tried to get on the plane. My body had like a panic attack. So I had to drive through 2 states to go through it, not knowing, I'd never met this man, but it's like the lightness kept pulling, and he was just holding unconditional love. Like, I'm here, whatever you need, you can stay in my home, like just pureness, right? And so that is the essence of intuition. It is pure unconditional love. And I think, you know, when we go through really hard experiences like you went through, or I've gone through, and probably all of us, the love can get convoluted and it can get confusing. Clarity is that knowing within, is that love that makes you feel light. So wherever you are right now, follow the lightness, like Denise said, be the love. Understand that you are connected to Source.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you're protected. I don't know if you can see this, but like this necklace, I actually received it there. It's like a protection. So whatever you need to be protected in the love, ask for it. And it may not come in the way you think. Like, it may not come from your partner or your family or things you would think would give it to you. It may come from somewhere else, like a colleague or a friend, or, you know, so
who knows?
right? Or a hummingbird, you know, like coming by and reminding you to be joyful. Like, you really never know. So I'd say open to receive. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, Denise. I keep wanting to call you Debbie, but anything else that you want to add? I think you remind me of one of my students, of just the peacefulness that comes when you follow your intuition.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned clarity, because clarity is power when we know what we want. So when you're following your intuition, if the end result is the one thing that you definitely know you want, right? Like for me, it was building my coaching business and helping women around the world heal their emotional wounds. Then whatever is in that path, then you know it's all worth it and you have to get through it. So one of the analogies that my coach gave me was, and maybe you're on that call, Abby, I don't know, but she described it this way. If you walked a path, a wooded path in the woods, right? And you were guaranteed at the end of this path, you were going to get what you wanted. So whether that's love, relationship, a business, whatever it is, you were guaranteed to get it. But while you're walking this path, limbs off a tree start to fall, right? Hit you. You start to get bruises. A big tree falls right in front of the path to where you can't even go through that path. Now you got to walk around it. Maybe you broke a leg on the way. You know what I mean? There's things that happen in this path, but you know that you're guaranteed the success of whatever you want at the end of this path. Would you walk that path? That's a no-brainer. Of course you would, right? So
I just think it's funny. So as you're talking, again, this drive, I came back to San Diego to stay with my best friend because the apartment I'm moving into is being renovated. And so there literally was a tree uprooted in the road. Like, oh my, as you're saying this story, I'm like, I'm walking it. Like, like, and I was like, what is this tree in the middle of La Jolla doing? You know, like, La Jolla, California is a really nice area. Why did they let a tree? And it just fallen. It was literally uprooted.
right.
And to me, it's like, you know, my guides have been sharing with me, it's like you pull out the weeds. So you uproot what doesn't work. And maybe that's why it does feel, you know, woody and hard and all of that, because it's actually releasing the programming. So I work with something called NLP, which is deconditioning what's happening to us and then bringing our knowingness into our center, right? So we can actually become greater than what's happened and move into the greatness of our spirit, because that's where we find truth. And that is what your intuition is. So I agree with you. I mean, it's a beautiful thought, you know, that you would be guaranteed that. It's almost like your soul has a blueprint of your life that already knows. So if you have the courage to walk it, like, how could you not be successful, right?
Right. Yeah. And we do have a blueprint, and that's what we have. We have a blueprint when we're born, and that's our subconscious mind. It's whether or not that subconscious mind and the stories and the experiences that are playing in our head are beneficial to us and serve us or not. Most likely not, right? That's why there is so many coaches in the world, because it's very needed. And I know for me too, my experiences of growing up in a certain environment led me to think certain ways. That was my blueprint. So it was all about me changing the blueprint, because you know that tapping into our subconscious mind is how we change everything, because our conscious mind is, I want to be rich, or I want to lose 25 pounds, and if our subconscious mind is saying, well, if I lose 25 pounds, then I'll lose the love of my life, or I won't feel safe, or if I become rich, then I'll lose who I am, or you know, whatever is running in the subconscious mind. So it is our blueprint. We just have to either stick with that blueprint or change that blueprint, because it may not be what we want to serve us. And the first part is just being aware of that. So for so many years, I was walking around literally blind, not knowing any of this, not knowing that I came from, you know, verbal and emotional abuse growing up, and not knowing that that was the reason why I attracted that into my life and married that and stayed with that for 22 years. These were all things that I was, you know, programmed to experience. And it wasn't until I became aware of these things, that's when things started to change. And it was like, you know, I describe it as eyes wide open. Now I'm walking around eyes wide open. I'm connecting the, you know, the dots, putting the pieces of the puzzle of life together. Whereas before I was literally blinded by, you know, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, the truth is, when you illuminate the soul, your intuition, and you shine light on what you're calling an unconscious blueprint, you can actually transcend it to your soul blueprint, because it gives you infinite capacity to create, right, from the light. And so that's what I think sometimes people forget, is their free will is actually more powerful, like I said, than anything that's ever happened in the past. So, you know, I teach something called intuition, right, because I believe that we have this infinite capacity to love and create.
Right.
So, you know, if I wasn't doing it, I couldn't teach it. But, you know, I mean, yeah, I started a company when I was 19, you know, and built a hugely successful practice on that concept.
Right.
So if it works for me and thousands of other people, it's going to work for anybody that wants it.
Right.
So the truth is, you can, you know.
Right.
And the biggest blocks, like, I would love to hear, you know, what you see as far as clients or people that you come across. What is the biggest block to following intuition? Where do you see people tripping themselves? Because it's like, you ever like, oh, I knew that, like, God, I just knew that, you know, that's your intuition, right? So what have you seen stops people from following their intuition?
I think it goes back to the stories that are playing in their subconscious mind, the things that they think they're not capable of creating. They think that they are supposed to do the daily rut like their mom and dad did, or where they came from, or whatever. And so what's blocking them is just really not being aware of what you were talking about, Abby, that they are, creative, and they can create anything they want, and that you are love, and you are creativity, and you can make anything that you want out of your life. Like, there's nothing that can stop you from doing whatever it is that you want. Of course, this is going to take time, like we talked about the seed and the growing and all of that. But yeah, I would think that's the biggest thing, is just the experiences that they've been through, or what they've seen in life, that, I can't do that because, right? I can't do that because so-and-so didn't do it, or I wasn't taught to do it, or, low self-esteem, low confidence in themselves, that they can create actually anything they want in their life. Mm-hmm. And that's just the stories playing in their head. And we don't even know those stories are there, right? We don't even know that that is a story. Like, I have the same story as my mom, and not even realizing it. We joke around, we're like, oh, I'm just like my mom. And that's actually what's stopping us from being who we are, because I'm not my mom. I'm different. I'm Denise, right? You are not. You're different. You're Abby. We all have our own path, our own journey, and we are all somebody different. And when we get stuck in that path of I'm just like her or him, then that's like the biggest block. Because we think, okay, if my mom made $60,000 a year, then there's my limit. I'm only going to, capable of making $60,000 a year. Or we don't want to make past what they make, because we feel like we'll insult somebody, or, so that's what I would think is the biggest block that I see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how do you help people get through that?
Just having them first become aware of what's really going on. And so it may be through my story or my client's stories that I can bring up. Like, this is where I was, and this is where they were, and this is where they came out of. And that if it's possible for me or them, it's possible for you. Because even though we're all different, we're all unique, we're all the same, right? So what you're capable of, Abby, I'm totally capable of. And so is the person listening to this. Like, we all have the same capabilities to have whatever we desire in life, whether that's, like I said, the business, relationships, love, whatever it is, you can have it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, as you see it, you can own it. Like, oh, right. I see that person doing that, I choose that as well. Like, what a great example of what's available.
Yeah.
So to really shine light, and really I just encourage people to bring their awareness, from their head to their heart. Because from that place, that is where we are one. I started a nonprofit last year, I don't know if you know this, called One Heart Global, where we teach children intuition now. So we can go into any country and not have the physical language, but from the heart connect. And it's just amazing the attraction that happens. Like, we go in and we don't have any prior knowledge of where we're going to go, but it's literally walking through the street that, like, the universe brings us together to tell us this person to bring us to the kids, So it's a beautiful thing to move into that awareness of love, of that frequency, and then to drop our awareness a couple inches below our belly button to our centers. That gut feeling, that knowingness is our constant companion. It's our connection to truth. And it's really like the best friend within you, right? It's encouraging you. It's like
loving you.
Right? I was talking to a friend the other day, and it's like, his wife's a detective. And I'm like, yeah, I bet she uses her intuition all the time, right? He's like, yep. Because you just know that you know. Right. So don't lie to yourself, right, about believing a lie. Don't lie to others by, thinking something that isn't true, right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing, is it's like, you said, the mind can be in that. I just like that image of the blueprint of the subconscious versus your soul blueprint. And if you can transcend that, and move into the soul, you will see the light, right? And you will know the clarity of your next step. So, do you have like a way that people can connect, whether it's a free gift or an email, where if people wanted to work with you to get some block clearing, that they could reach out to you?
Absolutely. My free gift is the Dominguez.com. Well, the link will be there. It's a self-love training call, and it is I do a whole 90 minutes of how to push through your negative self-talk, what it means to have self-love, all the ways to practice self-love, because I know for me, in the beginning, I thought it had to be this giant big thing that I needed to do to prove to myself that I love myself, but it could actually just be one flower that I buy for myself to honor myself. So I go into all of the ways to practice self-love and the journey of learning the importance of self-love and embracing and all of that juiciness in one 90-minute training call.
I love that. I'm going to sign up. Just saying. And it really is, I was talking to one of my students in the program that I teach, and she's doing a self-love thing. And I told her, I said, that really is the basis of intuition, right? Yeah. Because once you get that you are the love, then it's like you can constantly work from that foundation. So yeah. I love that and would really encourage people to sign up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share? Any other personal stories or gifts that you'd like to offer the audience that you feel is appropriate?
So something that you were just saying that I wanted to touch on, Abby, you were talking about don't believe, the lies that you tell yourself, because I actually just posted this on Facebook the other day, because one of the books that I have my clients read is The Mastery of Love by Dominguez. And in that book, he talks about getting really in depth of not believing the lies that we tell ourselves, right? And he goes into, don't believe what other people tell you, right? Because if other people, okay, so if we're running off of our subconscious mind, which is the stories that were passed down to us and the experience that we took on as our truths, right? Then what are we doing? Then what we're telling ourselves is lies, because they're not true, right? And there's no shame and there's no blame here, right? I always tell this to everybody, like, we're not pointing fingers, it just is what it is. So if other people are running off of the same stories, right, the same lies, the same stories that they took on as their truth through their experiences, for example, if somebody is violated, then what is said to them? There's things that are said to them that they take on as a truth. You're not worthy, you're not enough, you're this, you're that. And then that person believes that as their truth. So that story that they tell themselves, they think is the truth, but in actuality, it's a lie. So don't believe the lies that you tell yourself, and don't believe the lies that other people tell you, right? Because they're running off of the same type of stories and experiences. So they're lying to themselves. So what's going to pour out of them? The same thing onto other people. So I actually talked about that the other day because it's so true. Like, don't believe the bull crap that we tell ourselves, right? I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. I can't create this. I can't have that guy, or I can't have that girl, or whatever it is that we tell ourselves. Bullshit. Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
You have it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole thing.
I love that. I love that. I know, I think Christy Whitman, she's been on my show a couple of times, has a book called You Can Have It All. And to, again, move past that, I just love what you said. I feel like it's just so true. And at a subconscious level, we're putting that out there. And in the training that I have, it's like 80% of us is subconscious, right? So we're not even aware of it. And so that's why I developed, intuitive success coaching, because I'm like, wow, well, I got to figure out a way to get over that.
Right?
So good,
First thing.
Yeah. So it's like, just honoring the truth. And again, moving into that knowingness, of intuition. And I'll put a link on here too for that. But it's just like, we have the truth. And are we going to believe the lie or the truth?
Right. Exactly. And the truth is
courage, right? I really think
it's
courage, because we don't want trees falling in the path, but sometimes it's the law of nature. It's going to happen, Right. And can you trust yourself? Can you trust yourself enough? really, to get bigger than the lies. It's like I'm just seeing this little monster, and then it like, you get bigger than it, and then it shrinks. It's like to actually feel your power from your center and then redefine it.
And so some people take those things that happen, Abby, as, oh, it's a sign. It's a sign from the universe that I'm not meant to do this, right? They think, like you just said, the tree in the path, they stop right there. And they don't go any further because they think it's a sign. I'm not supposed to do it. Or, life is about perspective and how we look at it. So you could look at it that way. But if that's what you really desire and what you really want out of life at the end of the path, are you going to let a tree stump stop you?
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a neutral thing because it's funny. I remember looking at it and being like, oh, that's interesting. Like, it was totally neutral. And I agree because I've made perceptions mean things before, but I was just like that neutral place of like, that's really interesting. I've never seen that before. And I just went around it. Like, what else are you going to do? So it's almost like if you could bring some neutrality into whatever your block is. Well, isn't that interesting? I'm going to go around it. I'm going to jump over it. I'm going to get stronger than it. I'm going to get the other side of it because I really like the beach, or I really like that relationship, or I just, whatever it is,
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I just feel like that's such a great real life.
I like to say, how bad do you want it? Whatever's at the end of that path, how bad do you want it? Because if you want it bad enough, you will not give a shit about a stump, a tree falling. You will not care. Whatever comes in your way, you're like, I am going this way. Yeah. And whatever happens over here, I'm still going this way. Yeah. So if it is what you desire out of life, a business or the love of your life or whatever, you just stay focused and keep moving this way. And whatever happens, just stay on the path, stay focused. So how bad do you want it?
It's funny, as you do that, it's almost like the light, I just see the light going forward, and then you actually can't see anything on the other side because it doesn't even matter. I mean, literally, if everybody was to do this with their hands, you actually can't see on either side. Do not do that while driving. Sitting or listening to the show, you can try it. And it literally illuminates, the path of your highest potential. It's right there. But it is that constant trust. I mean, I'm just feeling it, in my body. It's a full body experience. When you in the ego mind, the unconditional mind, whatever you want to call it, it's, I don't know, can everybody feel it? It's like there's a stirring within, that knowing of like, oh yeah, I can. That's right. That's right. Here I go.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's all green lights. There's no stoplights. Just keep going. Just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah. Don't get hooked to anything to the side either. Like if there's something in your past, like don't throw a hook out to try to like, that'll pull you back. It's like, let go, let go of what's been holding you back, be willing, like you shared with your story, like letting go of this doesn't really serve when you move into what it does.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your gift and your share. And it's just so fun to get to know you. Like I said, I really just, when I do these, I follow my intuition, and it's such pleasant surprises when I get to hear people's stories and the way that they've transcended their own egos and really moved in a place of service. And I guess this last question I'll ask for you, as you followed your intuition, how have you seen your life become of greater service to others?
We don't have time for that answer.
Oh, we do.
Okay. So, I mean, like I said, when I started choosing me as a priority, doors started opening, opportunities started opening, and it just was like one thing led to the other. Like I said, when I left my abusive relationship, I didn't know it was an abusive relationship, which led me into, you know what, I want my own business. I don't want to work 9 to 5, which led me into a program, which led me into being surrounded by all these coaches. And even though I had a business coach, I was getting a lot of personal growth in that program. Who knew? I've always been an Oprah fan, but that's like trickles of personal growth and not like the real deal, which led me into, okay, start getting clients. And the confidence wasn't there for me to get clients at that time. And so what I did was I took a step back and I said, okay, so I chose me on a deeper level. And I took 2 years of me being coached, not coaching, me being coached for me. And that 2 years really transcend everything and really like transfer, just a transformation. And then I wrote a chapter in a book last year, in the book, A New Day Dawns, Breaking Up with Abuse. And that's when everything kind of was like, okay, Denise, you are supposed to be talking about the silent abuse. I call it the silent abuse, right? Narcissistic abuse. And you are supposed to be talking to these women to help them heal their emotional wounds coming out of these types of relationships. And it was just like, it's just like all these doors opened up and it's like, here I am. This is what I'm supposed to be talking about and supposed to be doing. And like, and as I'm transforming myself, makes me a better person to help other women. And then I find that as I'm coaching women, I'm being coached, right? I'm feeding them, but they're feeding me. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you do not know how much you give to me. This is not a teacher-student type of energy. This is a we energy. We're together in this, right? We're healing together. So I tell them all the time, I say, you give me a lot more, far more than you could imagine than what I actually give to you. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yes. So it's a constant peeling, shedding, and healing, right? Taking back the layers and shedding them and healing from them. So how beautiful is that? Like, as we grow into who we really are, then we can spread that to others. And then as we spread that to others, it bounces back to us. Mm-hmm. It's just a no-brainer and a win-win for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And sometimes, the greatest service is sharing your life experience.
Absolutely. Yes. And it was through me telling my truth of what happened to me that got me to take that layer down. And that's actually what my signature speech is own your story so your story doesn't own you. Because I was allowing my story to own me for so many years, right? I was staying small and stuck in that story and believing that that was my truth. But once I squeezed out that emotional poison, then I started to feel better. And then I could start to talk about it more and more without that charge, right? Without the emotional, coming out, the crying because there was a time, Abby, when I couldn't even utter a sentence of what happened to me without doing the ugly cry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now I'm on stages talking to women and sharing my story and giving them jaw-dropping facts about what happened to me and just continuing. Like, there's no charge to it anymore. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you have to squeeze that emotional poison out.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the tree. It's just neutral, right? Once you get to the point of healing, it doesn't affect you. You don't make anything negative. It just is. And then you keep on that path because you're probably meant to help a lot of people on it. Right.
And when you come from that energy, you're able to share that with others and not have no charge interrupt what you're trying to get through to them or deliver to them. And then and then the energy is like you said, neutral, where there's no emotions involved, right? There's just, okay, I'm hearing your story and I'm learning from what you've been through and what you've come out of. Mm-hmm. And how awesome is that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because emotions will mess stuff up in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get caught up in it.
Well, it's funny because the client I was telling you about right before this thing, she just sent something on her form, and without giving her name to breach any confidentiality, she said, I want to know the difference between emotions and intuition. And they really are different. So your intuition is that knowing. Your emotions can guide you to that knowing, but if your emotions overtake you, then the knowing disconnects. Yes. It's like, I've experienced that before, not often, but when I do, it's very disorienting. Yeah. So to stay, true to that knowing, and no matter where you are, you're okay. You can get back to that place of knowing, and your path is still there. So even if you take a detour, you can come back to that. Right. Like the path hasn't left. It's still there. You might have gone off, but it's still there. So just stay the course. Like you keep saying, I love this.
Yes. It's where I'm going.
Great. Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. And I just invite everybody to reach out to Denise. I'll post a couple links about intuitive success coaching and also about the gift. That self-love thing, I really invite everybody to get on that because it's so foundational, so true.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you, Abby, for having me here. I'm honored to be here and talking to you. And thank you to the audience for choosing you as a priority, because you are worth it, you are worthy, and you are enough just the way you are right now.
That's awesome. Beautiful. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.